Eyes in the Dark is an action roguelike twin-stick shooter, which means the controls are a little tricky, and that there are some problems with the game. However, I really enjoyed this. It's a lot of fun with some unique visuals that really help keep me interested throughout the entire game. I'll, of course, get to all that. But first, let's talk about the gameplay. You play as a little girl, Victoria Bloom, visiting her uncle at the family estate. However, there's a darkness that has consumed the mansion, and your uncle is taken. Now it's your job to go defeat the darkness and save your uncle. To do this, you must explore the mansion section by section, defeating bosses in every one. The darkness is trying to kill you though, but your grandfather gave you a pocket watch that if something happens will take you back in time. It's extremely helpful and sets up the roguelike loop in the game. If you die or at certain parts in the game, you will be reset to the beginning right when your uncle was taken and you have to do the whole thing over again. So you explore these sections of the mansions, like the rooftops or the gardens, and in every one there are a few rooms to explore and enemies to defeat. You must remove the darkness from around the level. In some of them, as you progress, more and more darkness fills the level. You carry a flashlight as your weapon, and you use that to spray light onto the enemies to kill them, and also remove any darkness that might be obscuring your view. Then there are rooms where you can get more pieces, chests where you can unlock more parts. I'll get to the items in a later section, but that's pretty much it. You're exploring this, killing all the enemies, upgrading all of your gear, picking up the sparkles so you can spend them in a shop where there's a talking crow, which is pretty funny, with the goal being to clear all of the areas and defeat all of the bosses. So you'll be doing this in a loop, as I mentioned, it's a roguelike, and you'll also get knowledge you can spend on permanent upgrades between each time you run the mansion. One thing to note is that the movement mechanics are extremely generous. The jump is very large and quite floaty, so you have a lot of control over the character. Now, moving between the zones forces you to pick a perk and an impediment. You can see on the screen right now, you can pick between 3, and you must pick one before you can continue. So it's a little give and take. It might make the game a little more difficult, but you could have a benefit. Choosing one of these greatly depends on your playstyle. It solves a problem, where every section is the same difficulty level, but as you progress, you're gaining these impediments that will make it more difficult as you continue to explore the mansion. So by the end, it's actually quite difficult because you've collected a bunch. What I will say is the system is fine. Maybe I chose the ones that didn't impede me so much that it didn't matter, but I didn't find it to be debilitating. At the end, the game was still fairly easy. Moving on to the items. You have a flashlight, as I said, is your main weapon with a couple upgrade slots. You can change the bulb, which will change the shot. You can have a more showering effect or a beam effect. It's pretty cool. And then you have a slingshot, which is mostly your DPS, especially at long range. This can also be switched out for a different kind. Finally, you have your shoes, which can be swapped out. Maybe you want jetpack boots or double jump, triple jump, whatever it is. And then also all of these upgrades affect the damage. Maybe they add some burning effect to it, so the enemies burn after you hit them. While all the items work similarly, I do have my favorites, and it does make it more difficult in a run to not get the items you want. You'll end up making some difficult choices between them, and maybe getting some items you didn't really want to use on the run. Between runs, you can use this bookshelf to spend your knowledge. Knowledge is gained by getting deep into a run. It is not collected. Keep in mind that to get 100 knowledge, it will take quite a few runs. Anyway, you can see where you can spend. Metamachine is the machine that gives you items before you start a run, so you can actually start with some upgrades. Items appear in the game if you buy them here, and perks, again, will appear between areas and you can pick them there. I beat the game pretty quickly, so I didn't really get a chance to buy everything in this section. I didn't really need it. It was nice to have items to start the run, it definitely propelled me deeper into each run, but unlocking things here is definitely not required. Then, walking to the right of the bookshelf, you can see I can pick 2 items from the Metamachine. The first is a battery for my flashlight, the second thing is a upgrade for my slingshot, and the third and final thing are springs for my shoes. As I said, these are nice to have, and as you can see, you can unlock quite a few choices. Okay, so the late game in Eyes in the Dark is a little repetitive. Once you save your uncle, he opens up some sort of time machine door or something, I don't really know. And you can pick which time period you want to go back to and save some of your family. Sorry for the slight spoilers, but of course you save him, it's pretty obvious what's going to happen, right? But picking one of these time periods causes the house to have anomalies. For example, enemies might deal more damage, or enemies don't drop sparks, the money you can use during a run to buy things from the shop. There are a few bonuses as well. It's an interesting way to extend the game, but having the player run through the same mansion over and over and over again, I'm not really sure it adds enough. Let me clarify. I don't think it adds enough to have the player run through this mansion and the same levels over and over again. But I found the main game storyline and finishing that to be very rewarding and worth it, so I didn't really want to or need to play this endgame content, but it's here if you want it. Finally, while you watch me try and defeat this boss, we move on to the issues, and they're very slight. Like the controls, as I said, they're tricky. Because it's a twin-stick shooter and a platformer, you can't use the standardized control layout for a game like this. You must keep your right thumb available to use the right joystick to shoot your flashlight. That means you need to use the trigger button to jump. And I did struggle with this slightly starting up as I wrapped my brain around it. But by the end, I had figured it all out and it became second nature as I got used to it. I think people new to a controller might struggle getting it all down easily. Another issue is that the projectiles are sometimes difficult to see. While the game is extremely stylized in black and white, which I find very cool, it is difficult to see the projectiles sometimes. You do also get used to it, but in a world where a distinct color is normally used for enemy projectiles, it is a little difficult to get used to. Last, I want to mention that there are also some weapon combinations that seem far better than others, and once you get that, it's almost impossible to lose. Now, of course, you do have to acquire them while playing, so you might not get it, but just the fact that it's there, it will make some runs easier than others. I want to be clear and say that none of this really affected my enjoyment of the game. These are some small issues that if you have a pet peeve for them, maybe you should not check this out, but really, it's not a big deal. None of these are big deal. Overall, Eyes in the Dark is quite a lot of fun. Really unique visually and exciting mechanics that, yeah, alright, some of them have been used in other roguelikes, so it's not super original, but the style and design and the way it's done with a flashlight is interesting and unique. I recommend it to gamers who like the genre, and something like Rogue Legacy, definitely. It is a little easier than that though. In fact, the whole game is a little on the easy side. Still, I had a lot of fun and definitely recommend it. But did you know I have a Steam curator you can follow? There's more recommendations there. I don't always make a video. The link is in the description near that like button.